There are certain moments in life that arrive so quietly that most people would miss them completely. No loud arguments, no dramatic conversations, no obvious signs that anything has changed. Yet in a single instant, something shifts deep inside a person's heart. Last night, your soulmate may have uncovered a truth about you. Not a fact written in a message, not something explained through words, something deeper than that, something felt beneath the surface. And whether you know it or not, that discovery may have changed everything. Stay with me, because what happened is more important than it first appears. Every person carries hidden layers within them. There is the version shown to the world, the version shared with friends, and then there is the deeper self that few people ever truly see. Most people spend their lives looking at appearances. They judge based on behavior, first impressions, and assumptions. But sometimes a person suddenly sees beyond all of that. Sometimes they notice what has been there all along. Last night, something may have shifted inside your soulmate's understanding. They may have realized that your strength does not come from an easy life. It comes from everything you survived. They may have understood that your kindness was shaped through struggle, not comfort. They may have seen that your quiet nature was never emptiness. It was depth. It was wisdom. It was a heart that learned to observe before speaking. And once someone sees that truth, they can never look at you the same way again. Think about that for a moment. The person connected to you may have suddenly recognized that behind your calm appearance is someone who has carried challenges without asking for applause. Someone who kept moving forward even when nobody noticed the effort. Someone who remained kind even after experiencing disappointment. That realization creates a powerful change. Not because you became different overnight, but because they finally saw what was already there. Watch carefully, because this next part matters. Real understanding rarely arrives through logic alone. It often arrives through feeling. One moment everything looks ordinary. The next moment a deeper meaning becomes visible. Maybe they began replaying old conversations in their mind. Maybe they remembered moments they once overlooked. Maybe they started connecting pieces of your story that never made sense before. Suddenly things appeared different. Suddenly your actions carried new meaning. Suddenly your silence spoke louder than words ever could. And that kind of recognition has the power to transform how someone sees an entire connection. When people hear silence, they often assume nothing is happening. But sometimes silence carries more meaning than words ever could. It can be the language of reflection, wisdom, and emotional depth. Every person shows a certain version of themselves to the world. We appear confident while carrying doubts nobody sees. We smile while managing struggles we never explain. We seem strong while quietly healing wounds that others know nothing about. Most people only connect with what is visible. They become attached to an image, a role, or an expectation. But true connection begins when someone looks beyond appearances and sees the real person underneath. Stay with me because this part changes everything. Your soulmate may have suddenly realized that the qualities they admire in you did not appear by accident. They were shaped through experience. They were built through challenges, lessons, disappointments, and personal growth. Maybe they understood that your kindness required strength. Maybe they recognized that your loyalty comes from character, not convenience. Maybe they saw that your quiet nature was never a lack of feeling. It was a deeper respect for emotions and their true value. The moment someone recognizes this, their perspective changes forever. They begin listening more carefully. They notice things they once overlooked. Small actions suddenly carry greater meaning. Ordinary moments begin to feel important. Often the greatest discovery is not dramatic at all. It is simply realizing that you have been genuine from the beginning, that your actions reflected your heart, that your presence spoke louder than attempts to impress. While others focused on appearances, you remained authentic, and authenticity has a power that cannot be copied. Relationships built on assumptions often become unstable. Relationships built on understanding grow stronger with time. This is because truth removes confusion and creates clarity. Once someone truly sees who you are, connection becomes less about expectations and more about appreciation. Last night may have looked completely ordinary from the outside. No announcement, no obvious event, no dramatic scene, yet somewhere deep inside, a realization appeared. And once that realization arrives, the connection begins moving in a new direction. Watch closely because the next part may explain why. Sometimes the biggest changes happen long before a single word is spoken. One of the most fascinating things about human connection is that people often discover themselves through others. The individuals who affect us most deeply rarely enter our lives by accident. They reveal something hidden within us. Sometimes they bring forgotten strengths back to the surface. Sometimes they expose fears we tried to ignore. Sometimes they remind us of who we really are beneath years of expectations and routines. Last night, your soulmate may not have only discovered something important about you. They may have uncovered something important about themselves because of you. Think about that for a moment. Many people move through life believing they understand themselves completely, yet deep inside there are emotions, dreams, strengths, and desires that remain unnoticed. Then someone arrives who quietly changes everything, not because they create something new, but because they reveal what was already waiting beneath the surface. Perhaps your patience showed them how rushed they had become. Perhaps your honesty made them question the masks they were wearing. Perhaps your emotional depth revealed how long they had been avoiding their own feelings. Sometimes admiration is more than attraction. Sometimes it is recognition. People are often drawn toward qualities they secretly wish to develop within themselves. That is why certain connections feel impossible to forget. They awaken something. They create awareness. Maybe your soulmate realized that the peace they had been searching for appeared whenever they thought about you. Maybe they recognized that your authenticity highlighted how exhausting constant performance had become in their own life. Maybe they finally understood that what attracted them was not perfection but truth. And truth has a unique power. It changes how people see everything. Nothing about you changed overnight. Your values remained the same. Your heart remained the same. Your character remained the same. The only thing that changed was awareness. And once awareness arrives, people begin paying attention differently. They become more thoughtful, more present, more observant. They stop reacting to assumptions and start responding to reality. Sometimes another person becomes the reflection that helps us finally recognize what was hidden all along. And last night, while looking at you, your soulmate may have unexpectedly discovered a deeper part of themselves. Don't skip this next part, because what they realized afterward may be even more powerful. As time passes, many people become so attached to the roles they play that they slowly lose sight of the person hidden beneath them. They spend years trying to become what others expect, instead of discovering who they truly are. Yet real growth begins the moment someone stops chasing an image and starts living honestly. Last night your soulmate may have realized something surprising about you. They may have understood that your strength never came from looking perfect. It came from being real. In a world where so many people try to appear flawless, authenticity becomes rare and unforgettable. Most people carefully present edited versions of themselves. They show confidence while hiding fear. They display success while keeping struggles out of sight. They protect an image because they worry that being fully seen could cost them acceptance. But true strength works differently. True strength comes from accepting yourself while still choosing to grow. Maybe your soulmate suddenly recognized that you were never trying to perform for attention. You were never building a character designed to impress everyone around you. Instead, you stayed connected to your values. You allowed life to teach you lessons without turning every lesson into a display. You carried your experiences quietly. You moved forward without demanding praise. And perhaps that realization changed everything they thought they knew. Stay with me because this next part matters more than most people realize. Authentic people are often misunderstood at first. They are called distant because they do not chase attention. They are called complicated because they refuse to become smaller for approval. They are called quiet because they value reflection more than noise. Yet over time something remarkable happens. Their consistency begins speaking louder than appearances ever could. Your soulmate may have realized that your honesty created more trust than perfection ever would. They may have noticed that your calm energy felt safer than grand promises. They may have discovered that your flaws did not weaken your character. They made it believable, human, real. And sometimes that is exactly what leaves the deepest impression. One of the most powerful journeys a person can take is the journey toward becoming their true self. It is not easy. It requires courage. It requires facing uncomfortable truths and accepting both strengths and weaknesses without hiding behind appearances. Many people spend years avoiding that path because seeking approval feels safer than seeking authenticity. But when someone meets a person who is already walking that road, something unusual happens inside them. They feel relief. They feel understood. They feel permission to stop pretending. Maybe last night your soulmate realized that around you they never felt pressure to become someone else. They did not feel the need to compete. They did not feel the need to impress. They did not feel the need to hide the parts of themselves they usually protect from the world. Instead, they felt accepted. They felt seen. And that changes a connection in ways that are difficult to explain. Perfection often creates distance because it makes people feel they must earn closeness. Authenticity creates connection because it reminds people they are allowed to be human. Perhaps the greatest realization was not that you had no imperfections. It was that you never built your identity around hiding them. You accepted growth without rejecting yourself. You carried confidence without needing constant validation. You remained genuine in a world that often rewards appearance over substance. Real value rarely announces itself. It does not need attention to prove its worth. And when someone finally recognizes that kind of authenticity, they stop searching for perfection and start appreciating truth. Don't skip this next part, because what happened afterward may explain why everything feels slightly different now, even if nothing has been said out loud. The deepest changes in life rarely arrive with noise. They do not always come through dramatic conversations, emotional confessions, or obvious turning points. More often, they begin quietly. They start beneath the surface, hidden inside thoughts, emotions, and realizations that slowly reshape a person's inner world, long before anyone notices on the outside. Last night may have been one of those moments. Perhaps nothing unusual happened in the physical world. No message arrived. No conversation took place. No visible event suggested that something important had occurred. Yet internally, a shift began. A truth became impossible to ignore. They may have suddenly understood something about you that had always been present but had never fully reached awareness. People often carry mental images of others. Those images are shaped by assumptions, expectations, hopes, and personal interpretations. In the beginning, we rarely see people exactly as they are. We see our idea of them. But when a connection is genuine, reality slowly replaces imagination. Maybe your soulmate realized that your value was never hidden inside obvious things. Maybe they noticed that your strength lived inside your consistency. Maybe they recognized that your calm nature reflected emotional wisdom rather than emotional distance. Maybe they understood that your silence was not emptiness, but thoughtful reflection. The moment someone truly sees another person, something begins to move inside them. Yet inner transformation rarely creates instant action. First comes recognition, then reflection, then acceptance, and eventually change. That is why silence should never be underestimated. Silence is where understanding grows. It is where emotions become clear. It is where truth rises above distraction and finally takes its place. And perhaps that is exactly what happened. Perhaps they finally stopped looking at you through old assumptions and started seeing you through understanding. There is a difference, a very big difference. Assumptions create distance. Understanding creates connection. Assumptions look at the surface. Understanding looks beneath it. For a long time they may have noticed certain things about you without fully recognizing their meaning. They saw your patience but did not understand how much strength it required. They saw your calmness but did not realize how many storms you had already survived. They saw your kindness, but did not understand the courage hidden inside it. Then something shifted, something connected. Suddenly the pieces formed a clearer picture. Suddenly they could see the story behind the qualities they admired. And once that happens, a person can never fully return to the way they viewed you before. Listen carefully, because this part matters. Human beings are not changed only by experiences. They are changed by the meaning they attach to those experiences. A single realization can completely transform how someone feels about another person. The memories remain the same. The conversations remain the same. The shared moments remain the same. Yet their meaning becomes different. Your soulmate may have started looking back at moments that once seemed ordinary, and seeing them through a completely new lens. A conversation they once considered simple now feels important. A gesture they once overlooked now feels significant. A moment of silence now carries depth. It is almost as if hidden pieces of a puzzle suddenly moved into place. And with each piece that settles, understanding grows stronger, not weaker, stronger. That is why some connections deepen without any dramatic event taking place. The transformation happens inside first, long before it becomes visible on the outside. The truth is that authentic people often leave the deepest impact because they are rare. They do not spend all their energy creating an image. They spend their energy becoming themselves. That difference changes everything. Many people chase attention. Many people chase approval. Many people chase admiration. But genuine people chase growth. They chase understanding. They chase inner peace. And because of that, their presence carries a different kind of energy. It feels stable. It feels real. It feels trustworthy. Perhaps your soulmate realized that what made you special was never something loud or obvious. It was the quiet consistency of your character. It was the way you remained kind when life gave you reasons not to be. It was the way you continued moving forward without needing recognition. It was the way you stayed true to your values, even when nobody was watching. Those qualities are easy to overlook at first because they do not demand attention. They reveal themselves slowly, but once they are seen, they become impossible to ignore. Stay with me because the next realization is powerful. Sometimes the qualities people admire most are the qualities they discover over time, not the qualities that impress them immediately. Immediate attraction can capture attention, but deeper understanding captures the heart. And perhaps that is exactly where your soulmate finds themselves now. Not simply impressed by who you appear to be, not simply curious about what you might become, but deeply moved by who you have always been. What makes this moment so important is that it may have nothing to do with change on your side. You did not suddenly become wiser overnight. You did not suddenly become stronger overnight. You did not suddenly become more valuable overnight. You were already carrying those qualities. The difference is that someone finally recognized them. Recognition is powerful because it transforms what was invisible into something impossible to overlook. Think about that. The mountains do not become taller when someone notices them. The stars do not become brighter when someone looks up. Their value already exists. Awareness simply reveals it. In the same way, your worth did not appear last night. It was already there. What changed was perception. What changed was awareness. What changed was understanding. And understanding has a way of creating momentum. It begins quietly, then it grows. A thought becomes a realization. A realization becomes reflection. Reflection becomes clarity. And clarity eventually changes behavior. That is why some of the biggest turning points in life happen without anyone else noticing. The outside world continues exactly as before. Yet inside, a completely different story is unfolding. New awareness is taking root. New feelings are becoming impossible to ignore. New understanding is replacing old assumptions. And slowly, almost invisibly, a new chapter begins to form. So if something feels different, trust that feeling. Not every important change arrives with an announcement. Not every transformation arrives with proof. Sometimes the deepest shifts begin in silence. Sometimes the strongest connections grow stronger without a single word being spoken. And sometimes a person finally sees what was standing in front of them all along, only to realize that it was far more meaningful than they ever imagined. And what makes this realization even more powerful is that it may have arrived when they least expected it. Not during an emotional conversation, not during a special event, not during a moment designed to create meaning. It may have happened in complete silence, a random thought, a quiet evening, an ordinary moment that suddenly became unforgettable. Human beings often believe that life-changing realizations arrive with clear signs, yet many of the most important discoveries happen quietly. One second everything feels familiar. The next second something clicks into place. Your soulmate may have found themselves thinking about you without intending to. They may have remembered a conversation from weeks ago, a small detail, a simple gesture, a moment that seemed ordinary at the time, but now it looks different. Now it carries weight. Now it feels important. The strange thing about understanding is that once it arrives, it begins connecting memories together. One realization leads to another. One memory unlocks another memory. One truth shines light on many others. Suddenly they are not remembering isolated moments. They are seeing a pattern. They are seeing consistency. They are seeing the same qualities appear again and again, throughout every interaction. Your patience, your honesty, your resilience, your quiet strength, your ability to remain yourself even when circumstances encouraged you to become someone else. And the more they reflect, the more difficult it becomes to ignore what is standing in front of them. Stay with me, because this next part explains why these moments feel so powerful. When people discover a deeper truth about someone, they are not only learning new information, they are experiencing a shift in perception. The person standing before them has not changed, yet everything feels different because they are finally seeing clearly. It is like watching the sunrise after a long night. The landscape was always there. The mountains were always there. The path was always there. The light simply made it visible. And perhaps your soulmate experienced that exact feeling. A sudden clarity, a sudden understanding, a sudden awareness that what they were searching for may have been present much longer than they realized. Think about how rare genuine understanding truly is. Many people spend years around each other without ever seeing beneath the surface. They learn preferences, they learn routines, they learn habits, but they never truly understand the heart of the person standing in front of them. Real understanding requires attention. It requires observation. It requires the willingness to look deeper than appearances. And when that happens, relationships begin to transform. Your soulmate may have started realizing that the qualities they respected most about you were not temporary qualities. They were part of your nature. They were part of your character. Anyone can appear confident for a moment. Anyone can appear kind when life is easy. Anyone can appear strong when circumstances are favorable. But true character reveals itself over time. It reveals itself through consistency. It reveals itself through difficult moments. It reveals itself through the choices people make when nobody is watching. Perhaps they began noticing how often your actions matched your values, how often your words matched your behavior, how often your heart matched the image you presented to the world. Those realizations create trust, and trust creates emotional depth. Suddenly, the connection feels more meaningful, more stable, more real. Not because something new was created, but because something genuine was finally recognized. Watch carefully, because this next realization may be the most important one of all. The people who leave the deepest impact are rarely the loudest people in the room. They are often the people whose presence continues to echo long after the moment has passed. They are the people whose kindness remains in someone's memory, the people whose honesty creates comfort, the people whose strength inspires without trying to inspire, the people whose authenticity gives others permission to be authentic too. And perhaps your soulmate has begun realizing that your influence on their life has been much greater than they originally believed. There is also something else happening beneath the surface. Once awareness begins growing, it rarely stops. It continues expanding. One truth leads to another truth. One realization creates another realization. What begins as curiosity slowly becomes reflection. Reflection becomes appreciation. Appreciation becomes emotional significance. This process often unfolds quietly. Nobody else notices it. There are no visible signs. Yet inside a person's mind, an entirely new understanding is taking shape. Your soulmate may have started questioning old assumptions. They may have started reconsidering things they once believed about you. They may have started noticing how often thoughts of you appear during unexpected moments. They may have begun understanding why certain memories remain vivid while others fade away. There is a reason some people stay in our minds long after conversations end. There is a reason some connections continue pulling our attention no matter how much time passes. It is because they touch something meaningful, something genuine, something difficult to replace. Perhaps your soulmate has started realizing that your presence brought a sense of peace they never fully appreciated before. Perhaps they noticed that thinking about you feels different from thinking about anyone else. Perhaps they recognize that your energy carries familiarity, comfort, and emotional safety in a way that cannot be explained through logic alone. The deeper they explore these realizations, the more obvious certain truths become. And once those truths become clear, they begin influencing every future thought, every future decision, and every future feeling connected to you. That is why these moments matter. They are not temporary emotions. They are turning points in awareness. They are moments when confusion begins giving way to clarity. Moments when uncertainty begins giving way to understanding. Moments when someone stops asking themselves what makes a connection special, and finally starts seeing the answer directly in front of them. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all this is that genuine truth never needs to force itself into existence. It does not need persuasion. It does not need pressure. It does not need constant explanation. Truth reveals itself naturally when the time is right. It emerges through experience. It emerges through observation. It emerges through repeated moments that quietly confirm what the heart has been trying to understand. Last night may have been one of those moments, a moment when scattered thoughts became clear, a moment when uncertainty gave way to recognition, a moment when someone finally stopped looking for answers outside themselves and discovered that the answer had been present all along. Maybe they realized that your value was never connected to what you achieved. Maybe they understood that your importance came from who you are. Maybe they recognized that your presence brought something into their life that cannot be measured through words alone. And that realization changes everything. Because once a person truly understands the value of someone, they stop taking that person for granted. They become more aware, more thoughtful, more appreciative. They begin noticing details they once missed. They begin protecting what they once overlooked. They begin cherishing what they once assumed would always be there. And if that is what happened, then the story is only beginning. Because awareness is not the end of transformation, it is the beginning. It is the first step in a journey that continues unfolding day by day, realization by realization, truth by truth. And sometimes the most powerful chapter of a connection starts not with a conversation, not with a confession, and not with a dramatic event, but with one quiet moment, when someone finally sees clearly what their heart has been trying to show them all along.